Hi! This is a video I thought I would never be making on YouTube, but it is something that I am wanting to talk about because I feel like it needs to be talked about. I'll say right away though, I'm fucking terrified because I don't know what the response will be like, I don't know what you guys will think, and this is something that is actually quite, for me it's quite important. So I've made jokes in the past about my mental condition, and it has led to a lot of speculation within the comment section, on Twitter and everything like that about my mental condition. And the answer is yes, I do have autism. So you can stop asking, does he really have autism or is he actually joking? No, I genuinely do have it. So why are you bringing this up? The reason why I bring this up is because I know there's a large portion of the furry fandom that suffers from autism. Yet I don't see anyone talking about it. I don't see really just any personal experiences with the condition. So that's what I'm gonna do today, is I'm gonna just basically talk about it, and I'm gonna go through the steps on how I deal with it. But to kick things off, for people that don't know what autism is, I'll give you a brief explanation. Autism is a mental condition that affects people in how they communicate, how they socialize, how they learn, how they speak, how they understand things. We're still normal people, it's just we're wired differently. To put it in the most basic of terms, let's say you have 6 cars. 5 of those are Ferraris and 1 of those is a Subaru Impreza. They all do the exact same thing, however, that Subaru is wired differently from the rest of the cars. There's nothing wrong with that car, it's just it can do things differently. Like, it can't go as fast as these other cars, yet it can go off-road a lot better than these other cars. Do you see what I mean? Now, I know there's going to be some people in the comments asking what kind of autism I have. The type I suffer from is called Asperger's syndrome, or Asperger's to you Americans. Actually, I don't really know the correct pronunciation. Can someone tell me which it is? 1 for Asperger's, 2 for Asperger's. And the way that affects me is that I sometimes struggle with discerning someone's mood or telling what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. I know I get that a lot on this channel. I remember quite a recent memory with my dad. He told me a couple of years ago, when I was in nursery or first grade, I don't know what the American grading system is, let's just say year 1, year 2. The teachers came up to my dad, and because I was such a bizarre child, that the teachers basically said to my dad, look, we want to move your child into a special class that have learning disabilities. And my dad just said no. I have to say, thank God that he did that, because then it would have been preying on my mind my entire life. But while I struggle in those areas, I can excel in some other areas. Not meaning to suck my own cock too much, but I'm actually quite good at music. When I was 13, I learned how to play the guitar, and within 5 months, I was able to play Heroes of Our Time by Dragon Force. And if you don't know what that is, just go and watch how that's played on guitar. I picked up music so goddamn fast that it was deemed almost impossible by my teacher. However, in other things, in other subjects like maths and stuff like that, because I couldn't give a fuck about it, it was like going in one ear and out the other. Could not concentrate on the subject at all. But when it came to music, because it was something that I wanted, I put all of my effort into that, and I was able to accelerate faster than most people. That's how Asperger's affects me. However, autism is a spectrum, and from one person to another is different. Autism affects every person that has autism differently. To give autism a title, I would call it complicated. With that being said, to most people, autism is still a mystery to them. And with that, there are a lot of misconceptions about autism, which I will bring up. The most popular one with me is that autistic people don't feel anything, emotion-wise. That couldn't be further from the truth. If anything, I have an overload of emotions. And sometimes it gets so much for me that I have to really concentrate to try and hold it all back. The simplest of things can make me, for example, cry. If I'm watching a film and there's a scene on the TV that some people don't really think is sad, and I do, I'll bawl, and no one else will. I'd say I was a bit oversensitive when it comes to that kind of thing. Another thing that annoys me is when people say everyone's a bit autistic. Shut up, you don't know a fucking thing. Because to me, in my mind, that's just an excuse for them to do something a bit silly. Another point that I would like to bring up about autism, or people with autism, is that some people will go out of their way to use their mental condition as an excuse to get away with things. That I really get annoyed at. Not only is it bad on you, but it gives autistic people like myself a bad name. Why did you call this person such and such? Oh, I'm sorry, I have autism. Don't blame me. That is bollocks. You still have control over yourself. Stop being a fucking prat and get a hold of yourself. Because if I can do it, anyone can. And I'm the biggest fucking retard of the fandom. As I say, autism affects everyone else differently. And it still affects me. Like, for example, I really struggle to tell people's like mood they're in. Really struggle. Like if Rico comes home and he's upset, I really struggle to, tell if he's angry or happy or anything like that. And it can be a bit of a problem. However, I believe I have trained myself in a way that I've managed to hide my autism quite well from people, because when I tell people that I have autism, they are shocked, to say the least. Mark Sparks, for example, when I told him I had autism, that he honestly couldn't believe it. I seem confident when I talk to people, and I seem very social. And the reason is because I've trained myself to get around that. In a way, I view my day-to-day life as like a play on stage. You know all the lines, you've practiced, and then all of a sudden, you become that character that you are playing on stage. With that being said, I want to try and make my voice heard for the autistic community and for the furry community, because I do think it's a problem that isn't really talked about. Well, actually, it's not really a problem. It's just more of like a small issue that needs to be taught. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically tell you how I deal with it. Now, I just want to say outright that these like methods that I use are not medically proven. They're not in any study. They're not told by some expert. Because autism affects people in their own way, this is how I deal with it. And by telling you this, you can probably try it, and then hopefully if you do have autism, maybe this can help you as well. Because again, I don't see anyone talking about it. I don't see any personal experiences with it. So not to rant on too long, let's just jump right into it. So tip number 1 is realizing and understanding and accepting that you have autism. For me, this is by far the most important step for anyone. Because the sooner you realize you have it, the sooner you can actually do something about it, because you are going to question yourself when it comes to a social situation. Am I saying an appropriate thing? Is this the right response? What does he actually mean by this? The sooner you give over to that thought, it will help massively. And then you are opening yourself to train yourself to it. Number 2, observing and looking at people that don't have autism. Autistic people don't have a good reputation for socializing very well, and let's be honest, we can be a bit awkward. Look at me! I'm 22 years old and I'm wearing a furry costume. But this was one of the things that helped me when I first moved out of my parents' house. I was 19, I moved away to Manchester, and I didn't get on well with people. I was quite awkward, talked like really inappropriate things that were not even like connected to the conversation, and it would really hold me back. So when I moved to Manchester, I had to get a grip of myself and realize that if I want to make it in a social circle or anything like that, I would have to really, really train myself. So I hung around with a few friends in Manchester whom I still love to this day. In fact, I'm going to see them next month. And I basically listened to everything that they had to say, their responses, everything on a scientific level, not on like a conversation or sentimental level. I wanted to be the most charismatic person there could be. So I listened to people's responses. I took note of everything that was being said, and I took that and I tried my best to figure out how to do it. In the end, I believe it did pay off doing that, because I still have those friends today. Step number 3, practice. This one's gonna sound really bizarre, but hear me out. Have you ever done the nativity play at school? Do you remember when you had to read out all of those lines? You've constantly practiced to yourself at home, reading them out, making sure that you got the best delivery. This is the thing that has helped me the most. Now, what I mean by this is basically when you're at home, you've got like some time to yourself, you've got the house to yourself, talk to yourself. Make a conversation with yourself. Basically, practice in front of a mirror and try and figure out what is right for you. When I came to doing this, is that I would act out a scene from some of my favorite films. Now, this can be totally different for you. You can just pretend to make up a conversation in your house. However, it really, really does help, because you practicing your speech and how you come across to other people will translate into how you come across to a real person. You practice and you practice and you practice, and then soon you become the person that you want to be. Obviously, be yourself in that manner. And that's why I view life as a play. When I'm meeting people, I'm putting on a performance to make sure that I don't be awkward. Just to clarify, when I'm doing that, I'm most of the time fucking terrified. But this method also builds up personality, and most of all, it builds up charisma. Another really good way of doing this, I've just thought, is actually talking to a camera. Reason for this is because once you've recorded yourself and you talk to the camera, you can look back on that footage. This will also help people that are camera shy. You're welcome. Tip number 4, think before you speak. As someone that was quite awkward, I would often just blurt out something and not really think about what I said. This I can say I still do today sometimes. Why I say this is because sometimes when I was like talking to friends, I would come out with something that really didn't make sense. And it would be the most awkward 30 seconds of my life because it would be dead silent. When you're having a conversation and someone finishes the sentence and you're going to respond, just think about what you are going to say. And tip number 5 is don't be a moron. Now, I'm not calling us autistic people morons. Let's just get that clear before you get triggered. What I mean by that is if you do something bad or you make a mistake, own it. It was you. Never, ever blame anything you do on autism or Asperger's, ever. That is not a get out of jail free card. If you fuck up one time, just fucking own it and think, oh wait, that was bad. How can I improve upon that? How can I not do that again? Because the amount of fucking times I've seen people make a complete ass of themselves at conventions and they blame it on their autism, I just put my hands in my eyes and wish that I was never born. You are in control. You can walk with 2 feet. You can grab stuff with your hands. You are controlling that. You are in control of your body, which means you are in control of your tongue and whatever you do physically. Now that I think about it, my autism really was at its worst when I was a teenager. For example, when I moved out to come and live with Skyware, you're gonna love this. This is a really stupid story. Side note, all I could focus on when I was moving about is like the cool stuff, like the fursuits, the fur meets, going having fun with friends, and being able to be with my boyfriend. That was all I could think about. However, what I didn't think about was the long term, like, how am I gonna pay rent? How am I gonna get money? I hadn't even met Skyware, yet we just moved in together because we talked online. He could have been a fucking serial killer for all I'd known. I had nothing and I moved out to a place in Manchester with 4 friends. My fucking god, how the hell am I here today? That does not work normally. But in my head at the time, all was fine. I didn't think about that. All I could think about was, let's go and hang out with furries. Jesus Christ, now that I think about it, I really was fucking daft in the day, wasn't I? But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I am a bit nervous about posting this video, but I just want to make it absolutely clear. None of the tips I've given are medically proven. They haven't been seen by some professional. This is just how I deal with it. And hopefully by you watching this video, and if you are autistic, maybe my tips can help you. But remember, autism affects people differently. One other thing, I don't want this video to be the staple of my channel. I don't want people to like look at me differently and view my work differently just because I've actually managed to grow some balls about making this video. And I'm trying my hardest right now to be as normal as possible, despite wearing the fursuit. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful and insightful, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye! By the way, if you want a little bit more information about autism and like what it is and what it does, I know I wasn't very detailed, but I've left some links in the description to videos that I think can be quite insightful.